Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. I'm your host, Nancy Sheed, and I am excited to be revisiting with our friend Shannon Malkin Daniels. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, thanks for having me, Nancy.
For those of you who don't know or might not have caught our episode with Shannon probably a few years back, Shannon's a TEDx speaker, an author, and a communication expert who helps leaders build confidence and connection and authenticity. And Shannon, the name of your company is SPEAC. Success spelled with a C, not
Correct.
like S. Okay, we're going to go into that and make sure you get it. So welcome back. In the time of revisiting, Shannon, you were with our marketing collective last month, and you just had such insightful things to say. We thought it made sense to get you back on the podcast and talk about what's changing, what hasn't changed, what are people's challenges in speaking. And you were presenting to us as marketers, which people don't always think about, but everybody actually is challenged in this space. So who do you find needs your help the most, or who are you finding is benefiting from the most from sort of understanding how to bring out this authenticity into their message and in communicating?
Everybody. And
True statement.
I
True
know
statement.
with marketing, you need to niche yourself, right? And say specifically who you work with. And I do have a niche of who I specifically work with, but I've also been doing a lot of research on where we are right now with AI, the use of AI in our messaging, and just me being able to pick out online, like, yep, AI wrote that one. Yep, AI wrote that one. And there's actually been a lot of research that is showing that authenticity, human communication skills, as the usage of AI is increasing, the need for training and development in these skill sets, these human skills, is becoming more and more important, and that's ramping up as well.
A lot to unpack there. And yes, you and I were just talking beforehand, and I was saying I just came back from South by Southwest, and in every single room, no matter what the topic was, the words authenticity, trust, communication, connection, community, like they were all critical pieces, and it didn't matter what the subject matter was. It didn't matter if you were a music producer. It didn't matter if you were a personal brand expert. It didn't matter if you were Jamie Lee Curtis. So I feel like the AI piece is a huge one that has actually changed. But let's go back a little bit, just in terms of fundamentals. When you say everybody, I feel like coming to this, to any situation we're speaking, there are two parts. And I don't know if you see it this way. There's the, what's my message and how am I delivering it? Is that too simple of a framework, or how do you talk to people about bringing those pieces to the table?
Yeah. I don't just do speaker coaching. I also train on interpersonal communication skills. So when I'm working with people, it's either on the side of one-on-one, and that's mostly with founders, business owners that are doing the whole kit and caboodle, front to back, top to bottom, chief bottle washer and chief executive.
Exactly.
And then the organizational side of going in and doing training and development for their employees. And so when we're looking at this, there are very distinct audiences and distinct ways that they're using this. There are people that are just focused on the messaging piece of it all, which is developing the messaging for their organization. And then there are the people that are going out and speaking. And there's a couple of schools of thoughts around speaking, and some speaker coaches will really focus in on and hone in on the delivery piece. What does your verbal and nonverbal delivery look like? It doesn't matter if your content is mediocre as long as you know how to engage the audience and you're compelling up there. And then there's the other side of the coin where it's like, no, you have to have amazing content and you can be an okay speaker as long as your content's really valuable. From where I sit and have been doing this for 10 years, you really need both. And there has to be a good balance there. If your message is not resonating with your audience, if it's not authentic to who you are, And if you're just all fact-based and not doing storytelling or anything like that and connecting with people on a human level,
Right.
then it doesn't matter how much knowledge that you're sharing. It's not going to resonate with people. And it likewise, if you get up there and you're just like the best speaker ever, but you're talking in circles and no one can make sense of what you're saying, then that doesn't matter either. You have to really have a balance of the two to be effective in message delivery, especially when you're speaking, whether it's on a podcast or in front of a room, or even just sitting down one-on-one or in small groups.
I appreciate you breaking that down. And then so you've also called out some people are good at one, some people are good at another, some people don't think they're good at either.
Mm-hmm.
How does somebody get started? And I'm hearing you that authenticity piece being critical for both parts of that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what feels authentic to you, what feels authentic to your messaging, what feels authentic in how you present. How do you get started with somebody? Like, is that the thread that you pull on for the whole experience? Or just sometimes people don't even know what they want to be saying? What does it look like to get started or for people to know where the best place to start is for them in this day and age with AI?
Yeah. A lot of people just go into AI and say, write me a speech, or this is what I want to say, write it for me. And they fall in love with how it sounds, but it doesn't sound like them. So I would really caution people with that. Don't let AI do the writing for you. Write it and let AI help become a research partner or a thought partner. So that's the one piece there. Where do people get started? When I'm working with someone, I like to have someone come in and get a baseline for where they are. I like to just have a conversation with someone, understand their natural tone, their natural cadence, how they speak just conversationally with me when they're not feeling like they're put in front of a room with the pressure on, right? What is your natural, authentic way of communicating? And then when it comes to presenting, I see this all the time, even just standing up in front of me and alone in front of the room, they become a different person. And so I look for those things, and then I try to help people walk back to who they are and learn how to implement that. And then when it comes to content development, this is where the name of my company, Speak with a C, comes in. There's a framework that I call the SPEAC framework that I developed 10 years ago when I started this company, and it stands for strategize, prepare, elevate, articulate, and connect, with connect being the ultimate goal there of everything we do. And strategizing is really taking a look at, why are you even speaking to begin with? Why are you communicating to begin with? Who are you talking to? What's your purpose and objective? What's that core message you want to communicate? The preparation is doing all that research, coming up with your talking points, developing things. The elevate is weaving in the storytelling and making it one cohesive message that will resonate with the audience. And there's other pieces there. I don't want to go into all the details. Articulate is the verbal and nonverbal delivery piece. And then, of course, C, the connect. And so I try to walk people through that process. And depending on where you sit on the spectrum, each person's needs vary. And so some people need a little more work in different aspects of that framework, and others need work in opposite aspects of that framework.
Also, I should have said at the beginning of this, you've hosted your Drop the Mic nights. One was at HAYVN, and you're also an integral part of the HAYVN Hatch and getting the participants up and ready for presentation mode. In doing that work, do you take them through this framework as well? Is it an abbreviated experience? Do they have to be at a certain level? Like, you're cramming a lot in for people who are having to do this on short notice. Are there shortcuts besides practice, practice, practice?
Yeah, when it comes to something like the HAYVN Hatch, it's not like I'm working with someone to take them through every step of the process. I'm generally giving each person a 30-minute session with me one-on-one if they'd like it, to practice their pitch, because there is a very specific rubric they have to move through in a very short period of time. And I'm not part of the entire preparation process. Right. I'm more of helping them polish their message, polish their delivery, and be more effective in that. So when it comes to a process like that, and since it is so rapid, there's a feedback loop that's happening, both in that 30-minute session. And then we always do a walkthrough practice before the event. And I give them feedback during that as well to help them improve whatever their delivery is. And so shortcuts to the process, yes, it's more of a feedback type of loop, but is there a shortcut to actually developing and delivering an effective presentation? No.
No, it's practice, practice, practice. Shannon, you recently spoke in New York, and we've mentioned the words, again, the authenticity, the trust, the connection. You touched upon storytelling, so I don't want to leave that out of the loop because it's one of those words that to some people, even me, I'm like, I don't have a story to tell. I think you do an amazing job of helping people understand that we all have a story to tell and we all are a storyteller. How do you get people on board with that idea?
Yeah. First, when I sit down and talk to people, again, getting that baseline, I'll ask them to tell me about something that recently happened in their lives. And it'll start with something easy like introduce yourself. What kind of sports do you like to play, or activities or hobbies do you have? Oh, tell me a story about a time when. And then they'll just tell me a story as if we're friends across the table having a conversation. It's like, well, there's your story right there. You said you don't have a story to tell. And another thing I hear often is that my story's not big enough. My story's not important enough. I didn't have some major tragedy or life-changing moment happen to me that is big enough to share. But storytelling is about connecting on a deeper human level. And often it's those little day-to-day stories that create those connections. Just talking about getting up late and rushing into the office and being overwhelmed and sitting down, someone else is going to go, oh my gosh, that happened to me last week. I totally get where you're coming from. And that seems like a non-event to you, but it's not to them because it's a human condition. It's something we all experience and we can all identify with. So don't think about the little moments as unimportant because they're just as important and they have as much opportunity to create that connection with someone else as some of those bigger moments do.
Okay, I needed to hear that. So I'm sure that means a lot of other people needed to hear that as well. The flip side of that, though, is I think also, or the other piece of that is, I'm getting totally off tangent, but I'm seeing that play out in like newsletters, right? Like people connecting stories that to me are something like, I'm like, wait a second, that was a stretch. Like telling me that you saw a dog walk in front of you reminds you of how you're selling me your next, I don't know, program or offering, I'm out, right? But I think your point of like, and the word you didn't call out, but I think is also important, is sometimes it is a vulnerability or it is a behind the scenes or I totally screwed up or, you know what I mean? It may seem not necessarily like a big deal, but I think that point of like, does anybody else think like this? Am I the only crazy one that thinks this way? So I appreciate that because I think you do hear people who have amazing stories who are like, of course they're on a stage because that happened to them. Looked at their transformation. So why would I need to be either on that stage or how do I bring that story into what I'm doing?
And something you said there about okay, I saw the dog cross the road. What does that have to do with your products or your services? There is that point of relevance. You have to make sure that the stories that you're telling are relevant to the message you're trying to convey. Otherwise, you're that speaker who's just throwing spaghetti and it doesn't matter because it's not going to make sense and people are going to recognize that.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Yeah. And then another thing you pointed out was the vulnerability piece. And a lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable. And you had mentioned my talk in New York City last week. And one of the analogy I was using is how authenticity is the little black dress of business because it was
I love that.
It was a room full of women. And one of the things I talked about is how authenticity is confidence boosting. Just like the little black dress, we don't put the little black dress on when we feel confident and ready to wear it. No, we put on our black dress because it makes us feel confident and empowered. And so when I hear from people that I'm working with, well, I'll feel okay with being vulnerable and authentic when I feel more confident in my abilities. No, you feel more confident because you're wearing your authenticity. And when we step into our authenticity and show up in that way, we no longer feel like an imposter. We no longer have as heavy of imposter syndrome because we're just being ourselves. We're not faking it. And so it's very similar in that our authenticity makes us feel confident.
Oh, I love that. That is so juicy. Yeah, I kind of had a micro experience with that the other day. Like I've been making these videos and I leaned in, I was like, I have a confession. And I was like, you guys, I'm cheating on ChatGPT. But it was really funny how much that resonated with people. They're like, oh my God, I'm glad you said that. Cause, and tell me more about your experience. But I have to say, in sharing that, I did have more versus feeling like I'm just standing here in a microphone going blah, 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 blah. So
Mhm.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but because I usually the intuition is to go in and be like, no, I have to be really poised before I can drop the mic or lower something in like that. Shannon, you're such a proponent of just sort of getting people comfortable wherever they are and such a great partner with HAYVN. Can you speak a little bit about the new series that you're developing at HAYVN?
Yeah, we're actually kicking it off this month and it's going to take place once a month. It's called HAYVN Speakeasy. I love the name that they
I
came up
love the
with
name.
for this.
And wait, Speakeasy is as SPEAKEZ, right? So we're making it
Yes.
real. Okay, exactly. All right. We'll put the links in the show notes, but go ahead. I
Yeah.
interrupted.
Yeah. And one of the things is I think Toastmasters is a fantastic tool for people to build their confidence and practice speaking. One of the things that's always kind of been missing for me with the Toastmasters piece and where I see people come in to me is the skill building piece. And so I wanted to kind of create a hybrid type of event for this. And I approached Felicia and Brooke and the team here at HAYVN, and they love the idea of us launching a HAYVN version of this. And really, it starts out with some networking and round circle introductions. And then I'm going to spend 15 or so minutes every month teaching a new public speaking skill that people could just take away and use, and it'll be easy to implement. And then we're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour to get as many people in front of the room as possible to deliver very short 2 to 3 minute talks and give them feedback in what I call praise and polish. So what went well? What can you polish up going forward? And this helps to build confidence and lets them build that speaking muscle. And then we'll debrief by just talking about what we learned that day, how we're going to take that out into the world and use it over the next month. It's not a series where if you miss one month, then you're going to be behind the next month. Each month is its own standalone event. So you can come as you're available and just practice those skills and build that confidence.
I love it because to me, Toastmasters, I mean, one, I didn't know they still existed, but it always felt, I'm going to say it, masculine. I'm not saying it was male, but it just had that masculine energy to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
just picture the podium and I feel like you had to be in a business suit and it just, versus it's a bit like how we do HAYVN Hatch is like the nice Shark Tank, right? Like
Yeah.
this just feels so much more approachable, engaging, accessible, and welcoming. Like I was never into Toastmasters. This, I'm like, all right, when's the next date? Like, sign me up. And I like that you shared, even if this isn't to get you on the stage, right? Like this is not just for people who want to be on the stage giving keynotes. This could be internal communications. This could be pitching. This can be anything.
Yeah. And like I said, Toastmasters is a great organization. They have really helped a lot of people build confidence and have that practice, work on reducing their ums and uhs. I've been a guest, what do you want to call it? A guest coach for different Toastmaster chapters. And I absolutely believe in what they're doing. There's just some different skill building and some different opportunities that I've always wanted to bring to the table with this. And so it's not the same as Toastmasters, but it is a place where I like how you put that, the masculine versus the feminine energy, but it's
Right?
for anybody.
Yeah.
Male
Oh
or
no, exactly.
female.
I don't mean this
Yeah.
is a male or female. It really is.
Yeah.
It is about the energy to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they still pitch at the HAYVN Hatch. It just feels a little more accessible, less
Yeah.
intimidating, etc. I hope I haven't gotten in trouble for saying male and female energy.
No, no, no. I totally get where you're going with the male versus female energy, and it makes sense.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it was intimidating.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, we've talked about lots of mine and our favorite things in terms of I'm just going to keep hammering it in. And I think we touched a little bit upon the AI, and that's obviously been a game changer for what's going on in our space. But the doubling down on the human connection, the authenticity, getting somebody to trust you. I appreciate you bringing in the relevance, right? So don't let your storytelling go out of control. Make sure that it's relevant and tied back to. And also, you said something that we didn't really go into, but I think is also hugely important, is the verbal and nonverbal parts of this, right? Like, I don't think I ever thought about speaking that much, but I haven't made it my world like you have. But I think some people think they're totally on message, but their body's saying something completely different, right?
Yeah.
Things to think about. All right. Well, I feel like we're getting a sneak preview of what some of our topics are going to be at the upcoming Speakeasy. We'll put the Speakeasy notes in there, Shannon, but if people want to connect directly with you, learn more about you and Speak Success and your framework and how to work with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, either my website, speaksuccess.com, but that's speak with a C instead of a K. And then LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really the social media where I pay the most attention and spend the most time. So
Awesome.
Finding me on LinkedIn at Speak Success on LinkedIn or Shannon Malkin Daniels.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Shannon. We'll see you soon at the Speakeasy events. And thanks for always being such a great partner to HAYVN.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be back.
And that's another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. If you like what you hear, please give us a follow, a review, a thumbs up, share this podcast with a friend, and make sure that you're a subscriber.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.